I can't really believe that I'm going to be able to make this video because I've been playing RuneScape for a long time, but I just got my Fire Cape for the first time. Now, the Fire Cape obviously is not the hardest thing in RuneScape these days just because of how many things in RuneScape are so much harder now. For example, you have the Infernal Cape and stuff like that, and that's all a lot harder than the Fire Cape, in essence. However, the Fire Cape is still a really hard thing to do, and it's still going to challenge players up to 108 combat level and beyond to this day. So I decided that I would actually make a little short guide on how I got the Fire Cape because I literally just got it like an hour ago and kind of just coming down off the dopamine rush from it. And so yeah, I'm going to just go through how I got it basically. I'm a combat level 93. I have 77 ranged, but I started this at 75 ranged, and you can definitely beat this at 75 ranged. The extra range levels I literally got just from failing fight caves. And I have 75 defense, and really those are the only two stats that matter. 78 hit points. Those are the only stats that really matter if you're going to be doing ranged. If you're going to be doing melee or anything like that, this is not the guide for you. This is for ranged only. Because I personally find ranged easier than any of the other ones. Also, this is going to be done like kind of in one take, so if there's like weird issues, then sorry, I'm not going to go through and edit this. But yeah, I just got it. So the setup that I used here, I used Ava's Accumulator, I used the Verax Helm, I used a Verax Plate Skirt, I used a Guthix D'hide Body, Guthix Bracers. These are God D'hide, and basically any God D'hide will work. I just use Guthix because it's the cheapest. And then I have Ancient D'hide Boots, same thing, it's just extra prayer bonus. And then I have a Peaceful Blessing, which is also the cheapest blessing. I have an Imbued Archer's Ring, and then I have an Amulet of Fury. But this is kind of overkill. You honestly don't need this gear. Even if you're like struggling with fight caves at like the recommended skill level of 75. So if you're struggling with fight caves at those levels, then it doesn't. These are not very important. Like these are obviously the most expensive pieces right here: the Archer's Ring, Imbued, and the Amulet of Fury. You could easily do this with the Glory. The Fury is nice. It helps you take less damage and do more damage and have better prayer bonus, but it's not necessary. You can definitely use a Glory. And then for the Archer's Ring Imbued, I mean, I'd recommend getting an Archer's Ring. It's actually really nice and has a huge range bonus. However, if you don't have the Archer's Ring, it's totally fine. You can use a Granite Ring, for example, if you want to use a Granite Ring. I actually have a Granite Ring, so as you can see right here. These are very good. Granite Rings are still really good. And then for the weapon, Toxic Blowpipe, this is like not necessary to have, but it's very good. This is not necessary, but very good. And this is basically going to make fight caves really simple, straightforward. And that's the main thing that Toxic Blowpipe adds, is it makes it straightforward. So yeah, Toxic Blowpipe, I use 5,000. I have 5,000 adamant darts. Really, you need like 3,000 adamant darts just to be safe. I'd take 3,000 just to be safe. And then for scales, I have way more than enough scales in here. You probably need like 2,000 scales if you're being super safe. You really don't need that many. But if you just want to be super safe, 2,000 scales and like 3,000 darts would be like the really safe way to go. And other than that, the inventory that I use, let me go ahead and put away my Fire Cape and my Steel Arrows. Let me go ahead and equip this so I can show you what an inventory for this looks like. So the inventory that I use for this is I use Saradomin Brews. I use 10 Saradomin Brews of dosage 4. And then I use 15 of the Super Restores. And the reason I don't... some people run 16. The big guide on YouTube right now says to use 16. I used 15 because I used an extra slot for Dragon Darts. And here's why we're going to use Dragon Darts. I'll show you in a second. Then I also used a Bastion Potion of 4. These are pretty nice. It's basically a ranged and defense potion combined. And I got this from a guide on YouTube, and honestly, it's pretty nice. I mean, you don't really feel the difference, but there is a decent difference when you're doing Jad with the Bastion Potion. And then I use a Stamina Potion, but you really don't need one. I'd only recommend using a Stamina Potion if you are running around a lot and not using the safe spots, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. The safe spots are really important, and it's really important to get them down. And obviously, you then use Dragon Darts. I brought 300 Dragon Darts, but as you can see, my attempt only took like 48 Dragon Darts. So, I mean, I'd bring 100 just to be safe, or maybe a little bit more if you're really going to be slow on Jad. But this inventory is actually really good. This is actually way more than enough materials. I think I ended off Jad with still a ton of Sarah Brews and a ton of Super Restores. And yeah. Now, I want to stress on the equipment very importantly that prayer bonus is very, very nice. You don't need it, but it's very, very nice. The prayer bonus is going to just make your prayer last longer overall, which is very important in the fight caves because you're going to be using prayer a lot. And so prayer level and having good prayer bonus is very, very important. And the other thing that is really nice about it that people don't really understand when they first see God D'hide is that the prayer bonus actually makes your prayer drain slower. That's what the bonus is going towards making your prayer drain slower. And so what you can do is actually have a lot bigger windows to get your prayers correct and put your prayers on. It's going to give you a huge window to do that on. And then for the Varrock stuff, I honestly would say that it's very important to have the Varrock stuff. It's very, very important to have the Varrock stuff. I wish it wasn't as important, and I wish you could do it with other setups, but the Varrock stuff is so nice. And the Varrock stuff, just adding the Varrock stuff alone takes away a massive portion of damage that you're going to be taking from the fight caves. And then I just used an Ava's accumulator. Obviously, if you have the better one, the assembler, you can use that. I would not recommend using the worst one. It's not very hard to get the accumulator, so if you can get it, go get it. And that's what I used. You can also use God Capes, but I mean, this gives a 4 range bonus. I don't think it picks up darts. I'm not actually sure, so I don't actually know if that helps or not. But yeah. So next I'm going to show you the safe spots, and I'm not going to do a full run, but I'm going to show you the safe spots, and I'm going to talk about basically just how I did Jad. The reason I'm going to talk about it is because, I mean, I'm kind of tired. I don't want to go through and do an entire Jad attempt again, but I think it's important to just talk about differences in it that I had from the guides, and yeah, that's the important thing. So anyway, I'm going to show you the safe spots right now. So obviously you come in here. When you come in here, it's going to force you to run into the middle. You can either click off if you want to cancel that, or you can just toggle off your run. Alright, so here's the safe spots. So this is Italy Rock, and these yellow squares are the safe spots. If you're wondering how to get the yellow squares, then you just have to have the RuneLite client. If you have the RuneLite client, then you can turn on the squares using the plugin settings here. And then what you can do is shift, right click, click mark tile, and it's going to mark a tile for you. And if you need to unmark a tile, you can just do that. So this is Italy Rock. It looks like a boot. That's why it's called Italy Rock. And basically, there's 2 right here. I mean, honestly, either of these works. I don't really know why there's 2 squares there, to be honest, but either of them works. And then this is the other one right here. Basically, the way this one works is you just stand in it, and it'll trap any of the blobs from getting around that skeleton right there. Let me go ahead and get to the blob phase just so I can demonstrate how these work. It's only 2 phases until the first blob. Also, if you have RuneLite, I would definitely recommend turning up your render distance. The render distance helps you just see all of the fight caves and gives you a good idea of where all of your safe spots are. So that's why I would use RuneLite. However, it's not necessary. So yeah, here's the blob. So if we kite him over here, these are also some safe spots. I don't know what this rock is called, to be honest. I don't really care, but it has nice safe spots on it. This is one of the best safe spots, and you're going to be using this one a lot for a lot of the waves. And as you can see, he'll get trapped on the skeleton, and then you can just range him down from here. And then there's also safe spots right here that you can use if they're over on this area. So I'll show you how these side ones work real quick. So we move over here, go over to this safe spot. Stand right here. Oh, that was too far up actually. But you get the point. If I was standing right here and I didn't stand 1 square too far up, he would have got trapped on this skeleton, and I would have been able to safe spot him. Then next up, I have this safe spot right here. This one's also very, very nice and helpful for a lot of waves to have. Basically, same thing as the other ones. Stand here, he'll get trapped, and yeah. Now, I also have a safe spot that is not very used at all. Here's the safe spot that's not very used at all. People basically never use this one, but this one's actually saved my life in a lot of scenarios. And I mean, honestly, nobody really uses this one. Even the guy that I had help me out with fight caves said that he never even used this safe spot. But this is actually a safe spot too. It's actually a really good one. It's on this gate, this orange gate. And the nice thing about the safe spot is it's very trackable because this is the only gate in the entire fight caves. So it's on the complete opposite end from here, and it can help you quite a lot. It's like the only safe spot on this edge of the map as well, which is really nice. So the next thing, I'm probably just going to talk about the differences between the guides and like how I did Jad. So the guides suggest that the guides honestly suggest a lot of things that aren't true. For example, in Surgeon's guide, he says that on Jad there's a glitch where it'll show the animation of him being healed, but he's not actually being healed. I don't actually know if he was actually glitched or not, but that was very misleading because what he failed to mention was that like the healers that Jad spawns can still heal Jad even if they're on you. So even if you take the aggro of the healers, they can still heal Jad. And that was very misleading for me because no one really mentions that. But yeah, if the healers are within 4 tiles of Jad, they can still heal him. So let me show you what 4 tiles looks like. If you want, you can also, a little tip that I have, I didn't use this, but a tip that I do have, if you're struggling with the range of the healers, you can wait until you get to wave 62. And once you get to wave 62, where you have the 2 mages, what you can do is when you're on the orange mage and you're doing all your potions and prepping and everything, then you can actually set up this 4-tile radius from the orange mage, because the orange mage is where Jad spawns. If you don't know that, the orange mage is where Jad spawns. And also, another thing, if you kite the orange mage over to you from somewhere else, like so let's say the orange mage spawns right over here, if you kite him all the way over to the other side of the map, Jad is still going to spawn here. It's wherever the orange mage spawns is where Jad spawns, not where the orange mage is when he dies. It's where he is when he spawns. So make sure that you don't like kite the orange mage really far away, because Jad will be outside of your render distance, and you'll not be able to see what attacks he's using. So as for prayer switching, it's actually very easy. I mean, I think most people know how to do it by now, so I don't really want to go over it too in depth. But prayer switching, basically, obviously, you just have your magic and missiles. Try not to misclick. You probably will sometimes. Just try not to, I guess. Don't bother with Eagle Eye. That just drains your prayer. You can do it without Eagle Eye very easily. Don't bother with... I mean, if you have Rigor, you're probably a high enough combat level to do Jad very easily anyway. But, I mean, I would honestly not use the boosting prayers, just because it drains your prayer and it forces you to use more potions faster. So, like, even if you have the prayer bonus, just, like, you know, be calm. Just do your Protect from Magic and Missiles and you'll be fine. So, yeah, basically, there's another tip that I saw on a YouTube comment. This did not help me, but it might help one of you. On Jad, one thing about him that's kind of a lesser-known fact is you can actually predict his moves, not based on his animations, his regular animations, but based on his back left foot. So if you watch his back left foot, if it rises, if he picks his back left foot up, then it's going to be a ranged attack. And if it doesn't move at all, then it's going to be a mage attack. And the nice thing about that animation, the nice thing about knowing that animation, is that those attacks are actually 1 tick extra. So you have 1 tick extra to react if you watch his back left leg. So if you're really struggling with the prayer switching and you're really struggling with the timing and getting everything down, that's an option. Now, with the blowpipe, one thing to keep in mind is that it has a very short range compared to other ranged items like the crossbows. So one issue is you could potentially accidentally get in Jad's melee range. I personally, in my 8 attempts of Jad, I made it to Jad, I believe, 5 times out of 8. And on those 5 times, I never got meleeed by him, even with the blowpipe. So I honestly don't find that to be too big of an issue, but just keep it in mind because it is important. Now, another thing that gets overstressed a lot is the bats in the cave that you saw in the first 2 waves there. The bats in the cave are really overstressed because people say that they're going to drain your prayer really fast, and they do drain your prayer. If you have Verax, though, they're like pretty much never going to hit higher than a 0 on you. They will occasionally hit higher than a 0, but it's extremely rare. So at most, they'll take away 1 prayer. And honestly, people really over-exaggerate how bad that really is. It's not a huge deal. I mean, obviously, you should kill the bats as fast as you can, or trap them, but it's not as big of a deal as people make it out to be. The the one prayer decline per hit is not a big deal. So don't be too stressed out about that if you get hit by a bat or whatever. Your run's not over. You actually will have, the whole point of having an inventory like this is that once you get to Jad, you'll have an excess of resources. Like, you'll have way too many resources for Jad himself. So yeah. I found myself, my first issue that I had was with resource management. And the way that I handled the resource management issue is I just made a bigger emphasis on using safe spots. And safe spots vastly decrease the amount of resources that you have to use. Stamina, Saradomin Brews, everything. It vastly decreases the amount that you have to use. So yeah, just use the safe spots a lot, and that'll really help you with resource management. The other thing is be a little bit more keen on using your super restores instead of your Saradomin Brews. So if you're low on health, and you're the one thing that I did, which was dumb, was when I would get low on health and low on prayer, even if I wasn't being immediately attacked by anything and I was safe, I would still drink Saradomin Brews just because super restores would restore the stat drop. And so I was like, oh, well, there's a stat drop that comes with Saradomin Brews, so if I just use the super restores, I'll get that back. So every time that I super restore, I should use a Saradomin Brew. But that's not true. You should definitely just use one sip of super restore when you're low on prayer and not worry about forcibly using the Saradomin Brews, because you will need some Saradomin Brews for Jad. You'll need at the very least, you'll need 1 or 2 drinks of Saradomin Brew if you're lucky. But yeah, you're gonna need some Saradomin Brew for Jad. You should be fine. I mean, I had 4 full Saradomin Brews by the time I got to Jad and kind of got the waves down. But the main thing about fight caves is it's a test of will, not a test of skill. It's very easy once you get it down, and the main issue that you're going to encounter, really the only issue that you're going to encounter once you get the waves figured out and the resource management figured out, is your nerves. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think no matter what, you're going to be nervous when you get to Jad, just because you just did 62 waves and you just spent an hour of your time getting to Jad. So you're going to be nervous because you don't want to fail and have to restart. So you're going to be nervous regardless when you get to Jad. It will always happen. You're always going to be nervous. It's just not something that you can avoid. So it's better to accept the fact that you're going to be nervous and try to deal with it in the calmest way possible. But yeah, nerves are a huge problem. People who say that the nerves aren't a big issue and they're able to power through the nerves, they're bad. The nerves alone made my fingers shake so much on one of the attempts that I double-clicked range and died. So yeah, nerves can single-handedly screw you even if you don't want them to. So yeah, that's very important. So when you get to the final mage, which is going to be the orange mage, obviously I can't show you that because I'm just doing this in sort of one take, and I don't want to go through the whole fight caves. But I mean, if you guys want and you are appreciating the extra tips I'm giving you, I guess I can do a full fight caves run. I mean, it would be nice to have multiple fire capes, not only for Inferno when I eventually do that, but just in case I lose a fire cape. But anyway, I am down to do the fight caves again now that I'm not nervous about it at all. But yeah, basically, what you want to do is once you get the whole resource management thing figured out, then you're going to move on to actually having to defeat Jad. And Jad's a completely different beast than the fight caves themselves. So the thing that helped me was I brought dragon darts. This is really nice because one of the issues I was having was I wasn't able to find the 4th healer that Jad would spawn. And he allegedly spawns 4 healers. I actually don't even know if he does. He might even just spawn 3 healers. I was under the impression that he spawned 4 healers, but for the life of me, I could not find the 4th healer every single time I did Jad. Even on the one time I beat him, I still was not able to find the 4th healer. So I don't even know if he has a 4th healer, but yeah. So I use dragon darts to just burst Jad down a lot faster. You don't have to buy a whole ton of these. You really don't need that many for Jad. So, people say that dragon darts are expensive. Yeah, obviously you don't want to use dragon darts for the caves in general. That's a bad idea. They're too expensive to do that. It's way better to use adamant darts. Adamant darts are very cheap and do a very good amount of damage. You can also use mithril darts, but you're kind of just putting yourself at a disadvantage if you do that. Adamant darts are cheap, and you can buy a whole ton of them. So I would recommend adamant darts for the fight caves in general. But once you get to that orange mage, that's going to be your setup time. So when you get to that orange mage, you're going to do a few things. First of all, you're going to get the orange mage down to about a quarter of his health. You can go even lower if you'd like, but you're risking it, especially with the Toxic Blowpipe because of the Envenom effect. So if you envenom the Orange Mage, he can die and spawn Jad when you're not ready and you haven't powered up yet. So just kind of be conservative with his health. Give him a good 20 to 30 health to sit off of. And what you're going to want to do once you get him to that, make sure you have Auto Retaliate off. I mean, you should have Auto Retaliate off once you get to the point where you're facing a Mage and a Ranger. Make sure you have Auto Retaliate off. And then what you're going to want to do is, against the Orange Mage, you're going to want to drink your Saradomin Brews, whatever you have, like 3 sips of it, and try to overheal yourself. So you're going to want to be like 80, 90 health around that range. If you're sitting at 75 when you're doing this, assuming you're at 75 health, the fight caves, you're going to want to get to like 90 with your Saradomin Brews. And then you're going to want to drink enough Super Restores to max out your Prayer. So basically, if you don't do that, and you don't max out your Prayer, and you don't max out your health, you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage for no reason. There's no point in doing that. It's better to just max out your health in Prayer, because you're going to have extra resources anyway, so there's no point in not doing that. And then you're going to want to drink 2 Bastion Potion sips, which will max out your range and defense if you're still lacking on it. And then you're going to want to take off your Toxic Blowpipe and then switch it over to the Dragon Darts. You'll have inventory space, just so you know. Just make sure you're dropping the vials once they're empty, but you will have inventory space. So then you're going to want to take off your Toxic Blowpipe, switch them out to the Dragon Darts, and then kill the Orange Mage. And then when you get to Jad, just stay calm. I know saying stay calm is a dumb thing to say because you're probably not going to be calm even if I say that. But yeah, just try to stay calm if you can. And switch between your prayers. And just kind of sit there and wait for the healers. When you get to the healer phase, basically what you want to do is just be very slow and methodical about it. My personal recommendation would be to keep the healers alive. But if you think you're fast and good enough to kill the healers, that's also an option. I would not recommend it because it's very risky. But if you want to, you can. I would recommend just, when you get to the healers, just, playing it safe, being methodical about it, and just waiting for a really good opportunity to tag one and not really worrying about how much they're actually healing Jad. So the way I do it is I only get 3 healers on me because I can't find the 4th healer, if there is a 4th healer even. If you can find the 4th healer, then good for you. But anyway, once you get to that healer phase, just be slow and methodical. Tag 1 healer at a time. Get them all aggroed onto you. Once they're aggroed onto you, make sure you have that 4-tile radius away from Jad, because if you're within that 4-tile radius and you're too close to Jad, they will still heal Jad, even if they're aggroed onto you. No one ever told me that, and I literally failed 2 Jad attempts just because I didn't know that they would still be able to heal Jad, and because someone told me that the healing animation on Jad was a glitch. And that was not true. So yeah, just make sure you're 4 away from Jad. It's not hard. Even with the Toxic Blowpipe, it's not hard. And once you're 4 away, like right here, I can hit this guy right now. Alright? So as you can see, if I mark these tiles, I'm easily like 6 away from him, right? I'm basically 6 away from him. Technically, I'm 4 away from him. But yeah, even the Toxic Blowpipe can get you 4 away. So just make sure that you're 4 away from Jad. If you're still having trouble with Jad and you're still having trouble with your nerves, there are some other things you can do to make it easier on yourself. Like, for example, you can use Chinchampas to aggro the healers once they're on Jad, because they have AoE. But that's a weapon switch, and weapon switching is, it's an extra click and an extra concept that you have to keep under control. And when you add that into all the other stuff that you have to take account of when you're doing Jad, it's honestly not worth the risk. It's a lot better to be slow and methodical about it and just take off healers as you can, one by one, and not worry too much about the weapon switching to Chinchampas. Then the next thing you're going to want to do is after you can do Chinchampas if you're having trouble aggroing the healers, but I would not recommend it. It's probably even more difficult than if you were to just simply tag the healers one by one. So basically just make sure the healers don't get you down too low. If you have enough hit points, they shouldn't hit you too much. I think on my successful Jad attempt and on my previous Jad attempts, the healers probably did about a total of like 25 to 40 damage on average to me. And that's like kind of a lot. That's being pretty liberal with the estimate. So you probably still will have to drink Saradomin Brews. And especially if Jad hits you and doesn't kill you, you'll definitely have to drink Saradomin Brews. So, be ready to do that. But be very careful about it as well. Don't freak out if Jad hits you or if the healers spawn. Just don't lose sight of the goal, Just kind of stay calm. Make sure you're doing your prayer switching and just focus very, very laser sight focus on it. And that's a lot more important than making sure that you're full health and stuff like that. Like, I let myself get down to sort of low prayer and sort of low health when I was doing my successful Jad attempt because I was more focused on getting the prayer switches. Prayer switches are basically the same thing as kill priority in the caves. So there's a priority of what you should do against Jad and a kill priority in the caves themselves. So obviously, like, these guys are low on the kill priority list. The mages are the last on the kill priority list in most cases. The big melees are around the middle. The bats are probably highest because they can drain your prayer. That whole kind of thing. So there's a whole kill priority and a kill hierarchy that you have to keep track of when you're actually in the caves. But then against Jad, there's a hierarchy and a priority listing of what you should keep track of. So I would say that prayers are number one easily. Prayers are the most important thing to keep track of and make sure you're switching them correctly. And then next would probably be Saradomin Brews, making sure that you're healed. Next would be Super Restores, making sure you have a good prayer. Honestly, if you have a good prayer bonus, you might not even have to drink a single Super Restore against Jad. I don't even think I had to. I did anyway because I used Saradomin Brews and I wanted to get my stats back up, but I honestly didn't even have to use it. And then Bastion Potions are very low priority. You probably won't have to use more than the 2 doses that you initially take. Weapon switching is not important. Once you get those Dragon Darts in there, you'll be fine. And other than that, that's really about it. Healers are technically they're medium priority because you can't kill Jad. With a Toxic Blowpipe and even Dragon Darts, you won't be able to kill Jad with the healers on him unless you have very, very high range level and you're very experienced with everything. You probably won't be able to kill Jad if he has 4 healers on them, even if you're using Dragon Darts. So when you are fighting Jad, just make sure you are getting those healers off of him. If you have a Twisted Bow or a Crystal Bow, I believe those 2 bows can outdamage the healers. Twisted Bow can definitely outdamage the healers. I don't know if the Crystal Bow can. I think it can. So if you have one of those items and you're rich, then you can just burst down Jad and not even worry about the healers. So if you're having that much trouble and you have a lot of money, then shell out for a Twisted Bow or a Crystal Bow and then use that against Jad. And, that'll work out. I personally listen to music when I was doing Jad. I just listened to metal, but I guess you can listen to whatever. That didn't really help calm my nerves. It didn't really help anything. It just filled the silence that I was dealing with. But I mean, it's whatever. Background noise isn't too important. If you're concerned about the difference between animations and sounds based on Jad's attacks and preemptively praying against them, definitely go with animations. Animations are so much easier. If for some reason, if the sounds are easier to you, then I guess you can go with that. But the animations are a lot easier, and they give you a much larger tick range, in my opinion. So definitely go off the animations. And if you do everything correctly, you follow all the tips, you'll be able to beat Jad and get yourself a fire cape. Make sure, a few things to keep track of, make sure you're dropping the vials when you can, because that's going to matter a lot when you're doing your Dragon Dart switching. And make sure that you are just being very focused on it. Don't get too nervous about it. You will anyway, but just try not to as much as you can. I tried breathing exercises. They kind of worked, not really. So, I mean, try to find something that works for you to calm your nerves. That's really going to give me the biggest thing. And definitely take Verax. Verax was so useful for resource management. Verax single-handedly solved my resource management problem because it allowed me to take so much less damage than I was taking with Black D'hide. And I believe I was using a Zamorak Coif. But yeah, with that kind of stuff, I was taking so much more damage. If you look at my stat bonuses right now, my defense bonuses are huge because of Verax. And so I'm able to, against rangers and stuff like that, I'm able to take so much less damage. And, yeah. The other thing about Verax, you'll see that it has a low magic defense bonus compared to the other defense bonuses that it has. The reason that you don't care about magic defense bonus is because obviously you're going to be praying mage for like the majority of the cave, and also against Jad. I mean, if you get hit with a magic attack from Jad and you're using Verax, you're probably going to get one shot. I'm not going to lie, but expect to get one shot. Don't expect Jad to be merciful. He will one shot you with no mercy. So expect to get one shot. Just be very, 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 very focused on your prayers. Now, the other thing, just the last final tip I would have, is a lot of people do recommend using a simulator for Jad, and using a simulator to basically, track his prayers. That's an option, but there's only a RuneScape 3 Jad animation simulator, if you want to call it. That's what it's called, but yeah. That's the only thing that's available. And so the difference with the RuneScape 3 Jad and the OSRS Jad is their animations are very, very distinct. So the RuneScape 3 Jad, when he slams his feet, which means it's going to be a ranged attack, when he slams his feet, it has a huge shockwave. It's very violent. It's like a very huge animation and very obvious. That's not the case in OSRS. His stomp is still a lot more obvious and a lot distinguishable from the magic attack that he does, and magic attack animation, but it's still a lot less noticeable than the RuneScape 3 one. So if you're practicing on the RuneScape 3 bot, that could be an issue that you're having. I'd personally my recommendation to you would be to literally just go and do the fight caves over and over again and just learn it by trial by fire, basically, and literally just learn it by doing it. That's honestly easier than doing it how you normally would. It's honestly easier to just do the fight caves and not have to worry about passing it. If you just don't focus on passing it until after you've failed a few times, then you'll have a much cleaner attempt when you do eventually pass it. And you could get lucky off some stuff and be able to pass the fight caves on your first try. But if you do that, then that's great for you. But if you're not able to do that, then that's fine too. Most people take about 5 attempts on the fight caves. I took 8. Technically 9, but I don't really count the 9th one because I died early on accident. But yeah, just most people are going to take 8 attempts or 5 attempts or so. I took 8. There's people out there that have taken even like 100, I believe. Like, people have taken some insane amounts of attempts on this. Don't be worried about how many attempts you're racking up. Just keep staying focused on learning and learning the animations, and eventually you'll become comfortable enough with it where you'll have no nerves at all. And then, obviously, the biggest prize, the fire cape, but the even bigger prize that people don't really talk about is comfortability with Jad. Making sure you're comfortable with Jad is very, very important for the late game in terms of, just being a good old school RuneScape player. You will have Slayer tasks where you're going to have to go kill Jad, and making sure that you know how to comfortably do Jad and not have nerves against him is the biggest thing. If you have no nerves against Jad, he's a very, very easy boss. He is so, so easy to do if you know the animations and you're not nervous. The problem is, on your first attempt, you will be nervous. And on all of your first attempt at the fire cape, you will be nervous. Until you actually get that fire cape, you will be nervous against Jad because there's a lot riding on it, and you really want that fire cape. But if you're doing Slayer tasks, there's not as much writing on it, so you're not going to be nervous at all, and you'll be able to just knock it out, no problem, even if you have the same stats and gear. So, if you do get a Jad task in the future, it's important to be not nervous against him at all. And obviously, for the very, very late future, there's the Inferno, which I personally am probably never going to attempt, but who knows where RuneScape's going to take me. Maybe I will attempt Inferno at some point. But yeah, Inferno, obviously, you're going to need fire capes just to get in. So that's important too. And other than that, that is about it. That's about it for the Jad guide. Just keep all of that stuff in mind and you'll be good. I believe in you. And that's really all there is about it. That's all that I needed to know to beat him. And I mean, I'm pretty dumb. I'm probably a lot better suited to do skills. So, I mean, if I was able to do it, then you are too. So, don't be focused on the fact that someone got like a Combat 3 fire cape. Don't be focused on that. It doesn't matter. Just fight your own battle. Figure out your own issues. Solve them. Beat Jad. Get your fire cape. Become really good at the game. beat the challenge, and be cool. And that's all you really need to know. So if you want a full guide on every single wave by wave on the fire cave based on someone who just beat it literally and has the stats and the gear for someone who just beat it, then let me know. I know that it's annoying. When I was looking at guides on YouTube, I just want to say it was really annoying to find people that had like 90 plus ranged, full armadillo, crystal bows, stuff like that were trying to give people advice or give wave by waves or whatever. That was very obnoxious because it's like most people doing fight caves for the first time are not going to have that kind of gear. They're going to have stuff like this where it's like a lot cheaper and, you know, more budget, that kind of thing. Oh, by the way, you're not going to be using arrows. So, yeah, just use the peaceful blessings or whatever the cheapest blessing is. It'll just give you a +1 prayer bonus. It's a free prayer bonus. Make sure you are using that slot because that's just a free prayer bonus. There's no point to not using one, basically. You can do it without one if you don't want to shout the 3,000 gold for a blessing, but it's very useful, so. But yeah, just you keep that in mind. It is very annoying when people on YouTube were making guides and they had like maxed out stats, 99s and stuff like that. And they had like full armadillo, crazy stuff. And they were like, yeah, it's just not hard, you know, just do Jed. And that was really annoying. It's like they weren't giving a good idea of how to actually do it with, you know, the stats that most people are going to be doing Jed for the first time with. And not their fault, I guess, because, you know, that's the stats they have and that's what they chose to do the Fight Caves guide with. But, you know, it was still annoying. So hopefully this is nice because I literally just beat it and I just relayed all the tips that I just used just to beat it like literally an hour ago. So it's possible with these combat stats, just guaranteeing you that it is possible with these combat stats in this setup. And just make sure you got the safe spots down. Runelight is extremely useful. If you're not using Runelight, you're just screwing yourself over. Runelight is extremely, extremely useful. Make sure you go to the right Runelight site. That's about it. Thanks for watching. Again, if you want the full wave by wave, I'm down to do that. I could use another fire cape, honestly. So, yeah. Thanks for watching.